Hey, FlimsyLunchTray here with you today and doing an upgrade and commander build on the tier 10, now premium, German battleship, the Grosse Kurfürst. So, we're going to look at the armor layout, we're going to look at the modules, the upgrades, consumables, and most importantly, the commander, where I'll give you my thoughts and opinions and recommendations. So, first off, when we're looking at the GK, what type of battleship are we talking about? We are talking about a brawling battleship. Brawling battleships tend to do best within, let's just say, generally 12 kilometer. Think of that more as a mid-range and closer. So brawling battleships, they get in. They tend to have really great secondaries, a main battery that revolves around getting into close quarters combat, so on and so forth. And that is very true here of the GK. In terms of her survivability, she's got 105,800, but very poor torpedo protection damage, 25%. To me, this should be higher for the size of the ship and the maneuverability. But she's got the second largest health pool of standard ships in the game, not including super ships, from my understanding. And we get into talking about the armor layout. You can see this is similar to Preußen, which we did a review on last week. So you have 60mm fore-end armor plating, which you have this 32mm that's high, and you can see even goes beneath here. A little bit of a gap there on the nose. And that transitions into the thicker armor, where you get into the casemate armor. And then if you're a destroyer, targeting GK, you kind of want to go more for the upper belt. You won't really be punching through this 380mm casemate armor. And you can see the stern's a bit more exposed here in the rear versus the bow. Then we start taking away the armor. So you can see this turtleback armor I was talking about. It's called turtleback because you can think of it as a shell coming down, protecting the citadel armor. So it's really hard to punch in through here. Usually I think it's long-range battleship armor or AP shells that can kind of come in more an angle and bust through. Or most of the time, you're going to be pinning, a lot of penetration on the GK, but then just kind of reflects up, hence the penetration you're getting up in here when it bounces up into the upper casemate armor. So, I think that's all we want to cover in terms of armor, and we're going to go into talking about the modules. So, the GK, you get two options with the main battery. You can choose this 406mm main battery, which you can see has a 25.5 second reload time, but less HE and AP shell damage, or take the 420mm main battery with a longer reload time and a slightly larger HE shell and AP shell damage. The 180-degree turn time of the turrets is the same. You get just the one hull, the 105,800 hit points. And the main battery firing range, 20.6 kilometers, which you can extend this with the spotting aircraft, and we'll touch on that a little bit more. Under 167,600 horsepower engine, giving you a maximum speed of 30 knots, not taking into account something like Brisk or the Sierra Mike combat signal, which slightly increases your speed. In terms of the main battery, I have elected to go for the main armaments modification 1 upgrade. What this does is it reduces the risk of your main battery from becoming incapacitated by negative 20%. Your main battery survivability is improved by plus 50%, and your main battery repair time, negative 20%. So because you have these 12 420mm guns, it's nice keeping them in action and just boosting up your tankiness, because to me, this is what I would prefer. And taking on the GK, alternatively, you can take the Auxiliary Armaments Modification 1. It increases survivability of the secondary battery and the AA mounts. I namely have the secondary battery in mind because it improves the survivability plus 100%. The reason why this can be nice is when you're looking at it, when you're taking a lot of shells, a lot of ships are targeting you here, and your secondary battery is all right here. So it's typical that you're going to be losing some secondary turrets that can get knocked out during battle. So I can definitely see the value of taking the Auxiliary Armaments Modification 1. It's really up to you, but I like having my main battery in action. This might be something maybe I'm more tempted to take on something like the Schlieffen, but I don't have the Schlieffen yet, and at some point I will, and we'll do an upgrade commander build on that when the time comes. You don't need magazine modification 1. Reduces the risk of your ship's magazine detonating by -70%, because you can take the Juliet Charlie combat signal, which completely limits the risk of your ship's magazine detonating. Ideally, you want to take this in something like random ranked clan battles. I don't use it in Dirigible Derby or in co-op. Moving on to the second upgrade slot, there's going to be 2 options I'm going to recommend to you here. The first of which we have the damage control system modification 1. It reduces the risk of your fire and flooding. Risk of catching fire, -5%. Risk of flooding, -3%. This is nice because you're improving your survivability, taking this a little bit, if you will. But alternatively, you have the hydroacoustic search modification 1, which I don't have mounted at the moment because I'd used my coupon, but we're going to go ahead and mount it today on the GK. What this does is it increases the consumable action time of your hydroacoustic search by 20%. Right now, our consumable action time is 120 seconds. So if I click on the hydroacoustic search, it's going to take me into the armory where you can buy customizations and then upgrades. And using a coupon takes 25% off instead of paying 17,000 coal or paying only 12,750. So we are going to be taking that because it's nice to have that awareness to mitigate taking torpedoes in the GK if you can dodge them, or maybe you're trying to pick up that enemy destroyer that's in the smoke screen, and just having that little bit extra really helps you out. We're just going to sell our damage control system modification 1, replace it, and now you're going to see the action time go from 120 seconds to 144 seconds. So a little bit nicer in my opinion of having a longer hydroacoustic search, because it's really helpful, especially when you're pushing in and brawling like we illustrated in yesterday's video. And then I want to say also on the engine room protection, don't really need this. It's more destroyer or cruiser. So these 2 are really what you're going to go for. If you don't have enough coal, go for this one first. But then if you have enough coal and you have the coupon, I recommend getting this. For the third slot, you get 4 options. You have the main battery modification 2, improves your main battery traverse speed by +15%. Then you have the tried and true secondary battery modification 1, extends the firing range, increases firing accuracy of the secondary battery by +20% with the firing range and -20% on shell dispersion. So that means we're getting even better secondary battery, and it boosts our range up. Without the combat signal, it's, oh no, I have combat signal on right now. My apologies. 12.5 kilometer and the 3.4 second reload time. AA guns modification 1, no. The Poison even has better AA, and it's still not the best. So that's not what you're going for. You're going for secondaries or main battery here in my mind. Then you have aiming systems modification 1. Your maximum main battery shell dispersion is reduced by -7%, so you're having, or improved I should say, having an even tighter shell grouping of your main battery. The maximum horizontal spread and the maximum vertical spread get a little bit of a buff there. And you still get a slight buff to your secondary battery in the form of +5% on the firing range and -5% on your maximum secondary battery shell dispersion. There have been, I've heard some players talk about a main battery build on the GK versus the secondary battery, for example. So then I could see you take aiming systems modification 1 and you're revolving the ship a little bit more around the main battery than you are the secondary battery. I have not tested this out. I have just heard some players take this. I don't know if it's great, but I like the tried and true old-fashioned way of the secondary battery because I feel like you get a lot more fun out of a secondary brawling build than focusing on a main battery build. For the fourth slot, we've taken damage control system modification 2. This accelerates fire extinguishing and recovery from flooding. Fire extinguishing time, -15%. Flooding recovery time, -15%. So when your damage control party is on cooldown or your repair party's down, this helps mitigate the amount of damage you're going to take if you have to let a fire or a flood tick. So this to me is a no-brainer, especially with the poor concealment and the immense size of the GK. She's not really hiding from anyone. Propulsion modification, this is something much more you'll see on destroyers and cruisers. Steering gears, your rudder shift time is 19.4 seconds. Pretty rough for a tier 10 battleship. So you're not going to be dodging, ducking shells. You're gonna take them unless you're doing what I illustrated in yesterday's video, where we were playing with our speed. We slowed down and we had a lot of potential damage, almost 3.3 million potential damage, and that was just because we were playing with the speed, knowing that a lot of our enemy ships are going to be shooting at us, and we can't dodge, but we can dodge in the sense of playing with our speed. Airstrike modification 1, no. Right now we don't have submarines in the game, but they're soon coming back. And you might get matches where you don't have a submarine. So again, this helps, especially if subs are throwing torpedoes at you, causing flooding. Damage control system modification 2, in my opinion, is the way to go. For slot 5, there are 2 options, and that also pour into the commander build with this option. And that is torpedo lookout system. You can take the torpedo lookout system on top of the skill vigilance. That increases your torpedo acquisition range and reduces the damage you're going to take from torpedoes. You could take that in the 5th slot. You can see right now I have the concealment set. It's at 15.9. And the reality is, in most battles, you're going to just be detected the entire battle. And yes, you're utilizing an island and shooting over for the first bit of a battle. So I can see the value actually in taking this on the GK, just because your concealment is so poor to begin with. But when you take concealment system modification 1, I think this gets you down from like an 18 kilometer something detection range. Or maybe it's 17 point something. So I didn't really feel comfortable having such a huge concealment or detectability range, so I went for this, but you could do a torpedo lookout system here in the 5th slot. Ship Consumables modification 1 increases action time plus 10%. Nah, these 2 are much better in my opinion, and for now I've gone with the concealment system modification 1. If you want to see something more regarding a torpedo acquisition range build with the German commander, I think Potato Quality did a vigilance build on GK or something like that, and you can see the torpedoes even farther away, which is rather funny when you do this build. So you can check out his channel in that video. Another WoW's YouTube content creator. The 6th slot, I've elected to take the main battery modification 3. It improves your main battery reload time. That's what is getting us down to that 28.2 seconds right now. But we do take a nerf on our main battery traverse speed, and that it is negative 13%. I still like having the faster reloading main battery because I'm improving my DPM, damage per minute. You also have the gunfire control system modification 2. This extends your main battery firing range by plus 16%. And I do not see the value in taking this. Again, you have spotting aircraft. Taking this with a main battery that is already pretty wildly inaccurate at long range, I don't think you're going to get much use out of this. I really would recommend more the main battery modification 3. You also have the auxiliary armaments modification 2. Improves the efficiency of the secondary battery in AA mounts. So your secondary battery reload time is negative 20%. And then your AA damage goes up. So then you're getting your reload time on the secondary battery. Let's see here, I'll pull up my fancy calculator. So you're shortening it by 0.68. So then you're getting down to a 2.7 reload time on the main battery. And then this is going to drop even further too. I still prefer the main battery, I think, in this instance, but yeah, I think so. The other really fun one is your unique upgrade called the Improved Ammunition Hoist. Now this is only a unique upgrade for the Großer Kurfürst. No other ship in the game gets this. So they have this in the game for some time now. Now you obtain it for research bureau points versus, I think, grinding a combat mission out in the past. But this improves the ship's artillery capabilities at short range. So your main battery firing range, you get nerfed. Okay, that's going to go down by -8%. So not that 20.6 I think we were at. Your main battery reload time, though, gets a buff of -10%. Sounds a bit spicy. And your secondary battery reload time is reduced by -15%. And that also sounds rather spicy. So you're really investing much more into your brawling capability. And if I had enough research points and maybe I had a bit more of a affection for the GK, I would get this. I do plan to get this at some point because I think this would be actually really good to take on the GK. Now keep in mind it's main battery load time, and the secondary battery load time is the main interest, the draw to this, even though you're getting a nerf to your main battery firing range. When we go back and look at the equipment, your main battery load time, -12%, and then now it's a -10%, okay? So really, when you're looking at this skill, you're taking it more with the secondaries in mind. And then if you did this, I would even say invest on an aggressive secondary, aggressive main battery secondary build on the GK, which I'll talk about in a few minutes. So right now, you're just getting, instead of your main battery traverse being nerfed, it's your range getting nerfed. And if you're brawling, it's not that big of a deal, and you still have access, again, to the spotting aircraft. Okay, so I spent a good portion of time on that, so let's get into the consumables. You have your standard damage control party, action time 15 seconds, reload time 80 seconds, so a minute 20. Repair party, right now is 529. I run the India Delta, get a little bit more of a buff there, and randoms, ranked or clan battles as an example. So now you can see it's 634, so definitely recommend that, get more use out of your repair party. I don't really use it in Dirigible Derby, I don't feel like using that combat signal, but you can. Then you get access to a spotting aircraft or the fighter. I have not used the fighter on the GK thus far. I've just used a spotting aircraft. You could see how I utilized it against the Wooster in yesterday's clip where we were able to take him out just to get a little bit better feel for landing our shots. So I would recommend taking spotting aircraft, especially if you want to do something like the unique upgrade here on the improved ammunition hoist. So if you have the legendary unique upgrade or just unique upgrade, let me know in the comments. I'd be interested to know your thoughts and opinions. And you see we've buffed our hydroacoustic search action time. We have 4 km for torpedoes, 6 km for ships when we took the hydroacoustic search modification 1. Okay, so the commander. So Gunther Luchens is a unique commander in whom you can acquire in the armory for 175,000 coal. And I'm going to be using him on my battle cruiser battleship line for the Schlieffen. But now that the GK is a premium ship, I get to use Gunther Luchens here on the GK. So it comes with some talents, main battery loader. If you hitting an enemy ship 140 times, this is something you're going to see maybe more with like Hindenburg or a cruiser German premium ship, where you get the access with that. After you get 100 hits with your secondary battery, you get a secondary battery reload time of -15%. So this actually works really well with that unique upgrade in slot 6 that you get for research points and going with an aggressive secondary main battery build. This is for German CVs. And then resilient, if you get 3 spotted ribbons, your HP gets slightly restored. And that's actually rather nice. It's 300 HP per second regarding what tier ship you're in. So this Gunther Luchens I use on Scharnhorst and Rai. It's really good. So the 2 enhanced skills he has is preventive maintenance. Risk of modules becoming incapacitated, negative 45%, versus the negative 30%, I believe, standard skill. And then main battery, he has an enhanced skill here, plus 25% than the standard 20%. So that is really helpful here on the GK. So Lucian's works really well on the GK in my opinion. So for 3-point commander, I recommend doing that. Because GK is known for, brawling secondary, I go for the secondary line first with the points here. So 6 points. You're going to get to the long-range secondary battery shells, plus 20%. And then for a 10-point commander, you get the manual secondary battery aiming, secondary battery reload time, negative 10%, maximum secondary battery shell, dispersion, negative 10%. These are 2 permanent effects. And then over time, to reach maximum efficiency, you add on another negative 50%, so negative 60%, to reach your best accuracy with your secondary battery. And then for 14-point, I definitely recommend going for fire prevention next. Or you could do fire prevention and then do the manual secondary battery aiming. But I went this way first and then fire prevention. Because the ship's concealment is so poor, it's so huge, you're going to take a lot of HE spam, especially in the tier 10 meta. So it reduces your risk of catching fire by negative 10%. And instead of having 4 fires, you can only have maximum number of 3 fires. And if you're a new player, let me explain that to you. Because you might be saying to yourself, well, I never get 4 fires. Why would I want to have this? Well, it's the location of where those 4 fires occur. You get 1 on the bow, 1 on the stern, and 2 here on the superstructure. What fire prevention does is it takes these 2 fires, and instead of having 2 fires on your superstructure, you only have 1 fire on your superstructure. And let's face it, a lot of HE spamming ships, destroyers, they're going to be shooting at your superstructure. Only more the Unicum players and stuff are going to be focusing more on trying to set fires across the ship, or just players that are aware to try to get the maximum damage on a large battleship and placing their shots across the ship. So most of the player base, they focus on your superstructure. So that's why fire prevention is really nice, and it helps reduce the damage you're going to take. So that's a 14-point build. What I'm going to show you is I'm going to show you a standard secondary build. So after that, actually, Adrenaline Rush. So as you take damage, your main battery reload time is reduced, and your secondary battery reload time is reduced. Your continuous AA damage goes up slightly. So this is nice, so then you're getting even faster volleys with your main battery and your secondaries. And then we emergency repair expert. The action time of the damage control party is extended by plus 10%. And you already have unlimited charges. It's not the short or fast reloading damage control party, which are limited charges, but that's not the case with the standard damage control party. Then you get a additional repair party consumable, plus 1. So it's having 4 repair parties, you have 5. And then repair party consumable action time is plus 10%. So your repair party is ticking for longer. So this is what I rephrase as the standard secondary brawling battleship build. Now there's a few options we can go from here. Let's say you want a very aggressive secondary build. Now keep in mind we don't need IFHE for the secondaries. They already pin what we need them to pin. 32mm and up. But if you want a very aggressive secondary brawling battleship build, then you want to go for close quarters combat. Increases the reload speed of the main battery after an enemy ship has been spotted within the firing range of your ship's secondary battery, which right now is 12.5 kilometers. So this pairs really well with the current upgrade that we have in the 6 slot that reduces our main battery reload time by negative 12%, I believe it was. Or if you take the unique upgrade in the Research Bureau, and I'll back out, I can't remember the name of it. Improved ammunition hoist, which improves the main battery and the secondary battery reload time. You can have a really nasty, aggressive reload time on your main battery and your secondary battery going on. So this is something that I definitely want to test out. I want to try this out with the GK. when I have enough research points, I'm saving research points for getting the Research Bureau ships right now, like the Ohio and some others. So at some point down the road, I want to test out this very aggressive reload time build. But you're giving up a little bit more of the health, but you might never find yourself actually being able to get to the 5th repair party, as an example. You can also do a bit more of a tank build, for example. I would say you are dropping the long-range secondary battery shells, and you're picking up Adrenaline Rush, but then you have this going on. This improves your survivability in the GK, module restoration time, -15%, and fire extinguishing time and flooding recovery time, -15%. So you're not going to burn, you're not going to flood as long. So you can do that, but drop the long-range secondary battery shell and keep your manual secondary battery aiming, because this is what's really helpful, especially when there's a destroyer yellowing you, and having a very accurate secondary battery. The other build we talked about was a vigilance build. So if I pick that up, probably what I would do is I might drop Grease the Gears. What would I switch? Because let's say you want to do more of a standard. Now you could give up Adrenaline Rush, but I like Adrenaline Rush as a player, and I think it's a good skill to have. And if I really want Adrenaline Rush, then that means I'm giving up Grease the Gears, or I'm just giving up Adrenaline Rush. But if I really wanted to do a torpedo vigilance build, yeah, I'd probably say I'm giving up Grease the Gears and having Adrenaline Rush, but I'm not really willing to do that. But this is just another build I've seen played, where you can detect torpedoes out even further, which is rather ridiculous, and it's hilarious. But I still prefer something more like this. So on Luchins, I can see really this or this. These are probably the two top builds I would have in mind. Especially something like because I'm going to be using Luchins on the Schlieffen, and you have on the Schlieffen you have only a limited number of charges on the damage control party consumable, so this is actually like kind of really needed. So this is how I would feel comfortable taking on the Grosse Kurfürst. Me as a player, this fits my playstyle a bit better, especially having the additional repair party. I am a player who focuses on the last half of the battle. You're not going to find me dying too much in the first half of the battle. I'm much more of a player who knows I can exert a lot more control in the last half of battle versus the first half. And my focus is living till the last half of the battle to really help my team get the victory and win. And so that naturally comes with making sure that I'm healthy enough, I have enough health to have that influence in the last half of a battle, as an example. So this is my playstyle a bit better, but Sergeant in my clan, he likes going for a bit more of the aggressive build, which I can see that, and this is something that I do want to try out at some point, that I'll just redistribute my skills and trying out at some point, but that is not today. So this build, this build, and you can even give up the long range if you still want the Adrenaline Rush really bad, focusing more on the tankiness, or going for something that's going to give you vigilance, and then maybe again you're dropping long range secondary battery shells to pick up the Adrenaline Rush, or you're just giving up Grease the Gears to pick up Adrenaline Rush in that example. So yeah, so I think that's going to cover it for today's video. I think we just kept it at just underneath 30 minutes. So if you liked this video and going over the GK, give the video a thumbs up so I know you liked it. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. Subscribe if you do want to see more. If you're subscribed, thanks so much. I really appreciate it. And we'll catch you here on the channel next time. Take care.